Malloreddus also go by the name of Gnocchi Sardi, meaning a Sardinian gnocchi. While traditional gnocchi sardi use semolina flour, these gluten-free versions rely on masa harina. A combination of water, salt, and masa harina go into the pressure cooker for 20 minutes. This then gets refrigerated until it's firm and then gets pureed in a blender. For a full description of this recipe, please go out and buy Aki Kamozawa and H. Alexander Talbot's cookbook, Gluten-Free Flour Power. It remains as maybe the most transformative cookbook in my library. Now, making the pasta dough is the first step, but how do we sauce it? Some beautiful fresh tomatoes are a great start to any sauce, of course, but I also couldn't resist the idea of playing with corn on corn. So I grabbed an ear of fresh summer corn and sliced off all the kernels and sauteed them along with a couple of cloves of garlic. This sauce trends a little bit on the sweet side with that peak summer corn, so I like the addition of some pungent, earthy oregano to ground it just a bit. After it's reduced for about 15 to 20 minutes, this all goes into the blender to marry everything in a hurry, shotgun wedding style. With a blender in play here, I saw an opportunity that I just could not resist. If you watched any of my recipes from the spring, you saw that I kept going back to the well with the cold smoker. I smoked eggs, I smoked avocado, I smoked guacamole. Have you ever tried smoking sauce? It's actually one of the best applications for this handy little device because your sauce has so much surface area to work with as the blender blades are spinning. For the wood chips, I'm using earthy mesquite here, which is a strong flavor that I know plays really well with corn. The smoke carries through the olive oil and gives a deep, savory umami note alongside the bright and sweet sauce. At this point in the cooking, it was late and it was hot, so I opted to finish this recipe the next day. The pasta dough sits very well in the fridge, and the sauce is only going to get better with more time for those flavors to mingle. It's nice to sometimes spread the work out a little bit and make a homemade meal feel quick and easy when it's time to eat. The next day, I rolled out the gnocchetti. I portioned these first by cutting them into 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch cubes and then rolling them into little balls. As for making this a gnochetti regati to help hold the sauce, last week I used the back of a fork for my potato gnocchi. For this recipe, I played around with different items hanging around the kitchen to give these some texture. I settled on this vintage masher of my fiance's that has wires similar to a whisk. A whisk also, by the way, is a great tool for this application. After rolling these out, I tossed them in some masa harina and then popped them in the fridge for 30 minutes to firm up. I generally always want to finish with a fresh component to add a little extra life to whatever I'm eating. Zucchini blossoms are a pretty incredible ingredient to use in the summer. They're not all that floral, really, to eat, despite them being flowers. They're savory and almost kind of meaty and have a chewy but kind of crisp texture. Okay, I'm all prepped and ready to go. I've got some salted water boiling on one burner and a small saute pan on low next to it. I drop the pasta into the water where it will cook for 3 to 4 minutes. And while that's cooking, I'll bring some of the sauce up to temperature in the saute pan. As soon as it's time, I'll transfer the gnocchetti into the sauce to finish cooking for another 4 to 5 minutes. These are done when their texture is smooth inside and have a nice bouncy bite to them. Now we plate. In go the gnocchi, draped with that thickened sauce. Then goes a shower of our chopped zucchini blossoms along with some fennel fronds that I just had hanging around in the fridge. One last splash of good olive oil, and we're done. Now we eat. Last week's recipe was a source of motivation for me to make fresh pasta again. It's something that I've missed and really didn't think I could do anymore. It's not that there aren't gluten-free, fresh pasta recipes out there. But at some point, I had made up my mind that they would all just kind of be faded echoes of the original. But I'm starting to come around. It's funny. Italian cuisine has been one of the most challenging for me to wrap my head around, despite me growing up with it. Pasta with corn or cassava or lentils, back in the day, that was sacrilegious. It was imposter pasta. Time and circumstance have forced me to adapt, and I see the picture differently. When I was cooking so much Italian food all those years ago, I learned the lesson that great ingredients are going to make for great food. And I took that lesson with me as I started cooking different food from different cultures. And now that I've kind of come full circle and I'm cooking Italian cuisine again, it still applies. I'm just using great ingredients to make old food in a new way. I'm grateful for that. If you like today's video, please think about clicking that like button down below. And if you want to see more recipes like this, I make them every single week. Click the subscribe button. That's it for me this week. Thank you for coming. I'm going to see you next time. Bye now.